Alright the Reds, it's Talking Reds, Tuesday's Talking Reds, and it's with me and Kev Walsh today, and we have woke up in a weird world where instead of ripping Everton Football Club, we're reading a statement from them and saying it's absolutely spot on. And instead of eating Duncan Ferguson or watching a video where he's signed with a lad, and you know, this is a mad world, isn't it? I mean, but it's annoying. The serious point here is it's annoying that Everton can put out a statement and they're absolutely spot on, and then in the name of Liverpool Football Club, and therefore, and we're associated to it, and we've seen it all last night as well, you know, we're basically taking shit for the owner's actions.
Yeah, but it's totally right, and I think there's some. We've got a mad section of Liverpool fans, haven't we, like on the internet. I know people don't like talking about the internet-based Reds, but unfortunately we can't go to the pub, or we can, but in very small numbers. So that's what we get to listen to. And there's some of them still defending them because they can't. We want other teams to separate FSG from Liverpool, but our own fans, some of them can't do that. And because we've got the owners that we've got, and we've let them get away with what we've let them get away with, and listen, he's done some good stuff, and I've always been a critic of them. But because they are so closely linked with the club, and because they own the club effectively, we have to dance to their tune, or so they fucking think. But on this matter, we won't do that. And we have to listen to all this shit, and Everton get to take the glorious high ground on us now. And listen, the Everton statements, everyone knows how we feel about Everton, but the statements are spot on. Yeah. They've nailed it, you've got it there. And what they're talking about, and what the rest of the world is talking about, aside from these supposed Super Six, which includes some shite that have never even won a European Cup, is they're correct, they're totally correct. We're trying to steal the rest of the world's game and just make it our own. It's not.
Yeah, to describe it in any way as being a move for sport or entertainment is just bullshit. It's greed and money. And if you look at the 15 top clubs in terms of revenue in the world, they're the clubs that are being invited. They're the clubs that are in this. It's not about what they've won. I mean, there's the brilliant joke clicking, and I've got to stop mentioning this. I mentioned it on the content last night, but it is boss. Have you seen the joke about this Tottenham being in the Super Leagues is like me rocking up to the Crucible with 50 people? Yeah. But it's spot on. It's fucking madness. It's not even what's it based on, and what are the rules, and how do you get in it, and all of that. It's absolute back of the fag packet bollocks. But Everton's statement is, Everton is saddened and disappointed to see proposals of a breakaway league pushed forward by 6 clubs. 6 clubs acting entirely in their own interests, 6 clubs tarnishing the reputation of our league and the game, 6 clubs choosing to disrespect every other club with whom they sit around the Premier League table, 6 clubs taken for granted and even betraying the majority of football supporters across our country and beyond. They go on to talk about the pyramid. They go on to talk about clubs like Leicester City, Accrington Stanley, Gillingham, Lincoln, Morecambe, Southend. They're all just examples. They talk about the self-proclaimed Super Six, and they say the backlash is understandable and deserved and has to be listened to. It's very hard to disagree with any of that, isn't it, Kev? I mean, you know, like I say, it's like gaslighting the message around it. It's absolute bullshit to claim that it's good for the sport. You've got Perez coming out today saying it's going to save the sport. Well, the sport wasn't going anywhere. I mean, they keep quoting as well, which is really grim if you think about it, the pandemic. You know, almost like this is why we're doing it. No, it isn't. Well, They've been trying to do it for ages.
Well, I was going to say, I think it partly is why they're doing it, because they think, fucking great. Because last night, Leeds v Liverpool, you seen outside the Liverpool bus getting chased down, and I felt a bit for the players, because when we were talking before off camera, weren't we, saying, when the news initially broke, I said to our kids, there's no way Klopp didn't know about this. But then when you listen to him talk, he's not the type of man who would lie and cover for his bosses like that. So he must have got the same shock as everyone else. And James Milner's come out last night and he's had the ball to say he thinks it's a load of shit as well. Yeah. And fair play for that. And we're stuck now. Like, we were talking about watching the match last night. When we scored, I wasn't even asked. Earlier on in the weekend, we watched the West Ham Newcastle game, and we were both saying we were really into the game. And when Newcastle scored, when West Ham got the man sent off, I was made up. And then in our game last night, I was just like, do I really care about this? And in the past, these European Super League suggestions have been seen as a bit of posturing to try and maybe get what they want out of the Champions League. And listen, them new Champions League reforms are a load of shit as well. That's not helping anybody. But talking of football not going anywhere, and talking of like saving it, what they mean is, and what we were talking about before, is they see legacy fans, which is an absolutely foul statement to me, horrible statement to me, as being dinosaurs effectively. They don't see any money from a legacy fan is probably what they're really getting at. What they want from the legacy fans is, do us a favour, just come in, make all the flags, do all the atmosphere, go and collect outside so we can make boss videos of you, and we'll sell it like fuck to Nike and to Nexon tyres and to whoever else wants to become a sponsor of Liverpool. And then, again, what we said before, they're trying to build this new generation into football, but this new generation, we were talking about your little fella, he doesn't necessarily, he likes football, but he doesn't necessarily want to watch an hour and a half worth of it. And listen, sometimes watching an hour and a half of Liverpool, if you're invested in it, it's sad. But if you're not, it's boring as fuck sometimes. Like you watch like Everton West Brom is not a game that's going to get people off the seats, and they're trying to get these new fans in. But eventually, they're going to get fed up of listening to or of watching highlights, and they're going to need to see a full game. And when you go to a full game and it isn't like Real Madrid v Liverpool, or even if it is Real Madrid v Liverpool, but it happens every year, they'd be like, what the fuck's this?
I just think as well, you know, what's next as well? Like, if this is allowed to happen, if this goes through, what's it a gateway to? Because it will be a gateway to something else. Because, you know, we've had in the past proposals of playing matches that count in a league, not a friendly, a match that counts in a league in other parts of the world. So it's basically picking up Liverpool, throwing it to the other side of the world and playing a match there that means something, that we've got to get up at 4 a.m. and watch. And now I know that people that get up at 4 a.m. and watch Liverpool Football Club, but Liverpool is in Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool is of the city. That's how I want it to be. I want it to reflect the city, the fans, our values, our morals, all the rest of it. And to just, the arrogance of it, to just go, nah, we can just do this. And we don't really give a fuck about you or me or you. We can just do it anyway. And what are you going to do about it? And even the way they've treated the staff, I mean, what I've heard is that, you know, they're in exactly the same boat as us, found out in the same way. They've had some kind of email from the powers that be, but it's not apologising, and it's saying it's the right position, it's saying it's the right thing to do, and it's not saying sorry. It's not saying, you know, this is what's going to happen and why. You know, I don't get why we're this far into it as well, and we're still not hearing from the owners. And instead we're seeing our manager stand up in front of cameras last night and have to field those questions. And he didn't look happy about it, let's be honest. I mean, you know, you start to think about it and you think, well, all season long it's been a bit of a shit show. It's been a tough time. You've had the injuries. He's had his personal problems. He's lost his mum. All of this. And then he's managed to turn it back around with the group as well, obviously, to be in a position where last night we could have reclaimed fourth, which meant something before all this bullshit. It meant that next season we could look forward to the Champions League. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say what you said, and I felt the same. You felt disengaged last night because you're like, well, what the fuck does it mean? Like, we win and we go forward, and what? We might get chucked out, we might not be in it. Like, it's dropped a grenade on this season and football in general, and they don't seem to give a fuck. I genuinely don't think they do give a fuck. I think we kid ourselves that I've heard a lot of people say, what type of business doesn't consult its customers? And the problem is, they don't want us as the customers. They want us for the good things that we give them, but they don't see, and that they've literally made the separation. They've said the legacy fans, they don't see those as the customers, as the consumers, as whatever they want to take. They want to break that, don't they?
Well, that's exactly what they want, because we're no use to them. They get 800 quid a year out of our season tickets, and fuck all else except videos that they can sell to sponsors. And they must see them season tickets and think, they must hate that. Yeah. The fact that there's fellas there who pay literally, like someone will probably 800 quid this year or whatever, and the club will probably get an extra £5 a match out of me for a pint, and that is it. They won't get another penny out of me, because I've always been not anti the club, but I've always been very, very cynical of the club, because the people who own the clubs, in my experience after Peter Moore's, have been fucking sharks and charlatans, and these are no different in my opinion. They're just fucking big greedy bastard businessmen who have seen an asset with 2 billion quid, probably over 2 billion quid now, that was available for 300 million. That was literally just floundering. That needed a little bit of direction. They weren't, do you know what I mean? They weren't reinventing the wheel. They were just doing things that other clubs were already doing, and they've seen it and got it for next to nothing. And they've now made it probably, if they was to sell it tomorrow, a £2 billion profit. But they won't sell it tomorrow now, because now they've got their eyes on even more money, even more. And it's the same with all the other owners in there as well. You can't look at these 6, just take the 6 English ones, Forget about the fucking Real Madrid and Barcelona this way, because they're owned by charlatans as well. But just take the 6 English fellas, get a picture of them and look at them and think, do you trust these men to make sure that your kids can go to the game in 10 years' time? Because I fucking don't.
Well, you mentioned the Glazers before, and it was like, you know, to me, even that, like jumping in bed with the Glazers, being happy for Joe Glazer to put out a statement on behalf of you when they've done what they've done to Manchester United and took hold of that club in the way that they did. Now, I know what you said before about, like, there was almost like a weird joy out of it because we're Liverpool fans. But equally, I've never liked it. No. I've never been comfortable with it. I've thought it's a bit grim, and I've worried about the direction of football. And then here we are, and this just feels like 2 fingers to everyone, really. You know, like, fuck the pyramids, fuck hundreds of years of playing football in this country, fuck the way you do it. Like, we know better and this is what you're having, and cop for it. And it's just absolutely, like, it's set fire as well, I think, to all the goodwill. You mentioned that, you know, you've always been cynical about FSG. I've tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've said that they've done this and this. They built us a stand, they got us Jurgen Klopp, they won us the league, they won us the European Cup, all of those things. You know, they do more in the community, etc., etc. They employ people to improve the relationship between the community and the club, fans and the club, and then they do this, and it's just like, well, what was all that for? And you, like, I keep hearing, like, when I'm listening to mainstream media stuff, like, they won't have expected this reaction. Yeah, they will. They 100% will. They're not daft. They will have known that this is exactly the reaction they'll get, and they've gone, well, let's do it anyway.
Well, that's because these are not football people. They own football clubs, but they're business people. They don't give. None of these fellas grew up watching Robbie Fowler bag for Liverpool and being fucking amazed up with it all, going further back than that, watching Ian Rush and Kenny Dalglish. They just didn't do that. They've seen an opportunity and they've grasped it. Man City are owned by a state for the purposes of sports washing. Now listen, if I was a Man City fan, and I've said this before, I wouldn't give a fuck about that, because Man City was shite for donkey's years, and now the boss, and they've got loads of boss players and they win stuff. So do you know what, I don't blame Man City fans for being like, well, do you know what, that was the only way we were going to win and now we win, so I'm not fucking bothered. And listen, that goes for a lot of other clubs as well. Everton have released that statement today and I fully endorse what they're saying. But don't for a minute think that if Mashiri and probably Usmanov is in reality the money behind Everton had the chance to be involved in this, they wouldn't be in it as well. This is what happens when you allow football clubs to be totally separated from the communities that they were born from and that they were born to serve. Liverpool was born, there's a song that says every other Saturday on my half day off, because that's what you did. You went to the match and you enjoyed it, and we've grown up doing that. And it's changed, it has changed, and listen, things do change, that you can't have it all the same all the time. But the thought of going to the match in the league and not meaning anything unless you're going to win the league is a fucking joke. And then to be playing in this supposed Super
League. Can you imagine this stage of the season in the future, if you like, if this has happened and we're still in the Premier League, because we don't even know if that'll happen. And you've reached this stage of the season, you're in this position, roughly where Liverpool are, like 6th, 7th, whatever. Yeah, would you be watching it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? I honestly don't think I would.
I wouldn't be paying no 50
quid.
I wouldn't be paying no 50 quid a ticket to go to fucking dead rubber games. You know what I mean? But again, the FSG are probably, if you're watching this, they're probably thinking, go ahead, fuck off, you fat balls, you know, bet. I'm not interested in you being in there.
We'll get another bum on the seat.
There's 1,000 other fellas who will take that ticket and they'll go to the club shop and they'll do all them things. And I've got no problem, by the way, with people coming to Anfield and people doing that. I've engaged with literally thousands of them over my time going to match. I always have a bevy with people like that. I love hearing the stories about them. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. So this isn't a thing about locals versus out of towners. It isn't. It's a thing about Liverpool fans and it being our club. And it is our club against them fucking owners.
Yeah, it's the identity of the club, what the club stands for. Because otherwise, my half fella, the late great my half fella, always used to say to me, it's just 22 fellas kicking a ball around. And it's in danger of becoming just that if we allow all this shit to happen. Listen, I've already had today, like, Man United fans messaging me in a positive way. Like I'm pretty sure there's a lad who wants a phone call, and he's a proper home and away Man United fan. He's not ringing me up to have a chat about, you know what I mean. He's saying he's going to say, what can we do here? Do you know what I mean? What's the score? I've had a message from someone in Iceland saying, I hope you are all going to be protesting because this is shit. Do you know what I mean? It's ripping up everything we've known. Listen, on the Anfield Wrap anyway, we are carrying on all the way through as ever. There is already reaction shows out there to all of this. It's ever changing. It keeps on moving. There's more and more said, and we'll wait for more information and we'll keep on doing what we're doing. We've hardly talked about the football, have we? But it's very hard to talk about the football with all this going on. I think Neil is going to make a good go at talking about the football on some of the other shows. So if you want to avoid this chat and you want to listen to exactly what happened in the match last night and what Liverpool got right and who played well and all of those things, we weren't the right people for that. But there is some content on the Anfield Wrap about all that, and we will continue to try to cover all bases. Interested to in your comments as well, so comment away in the below. We will read them. I'm interested to hear what other people think. I don't think I'm right about everything or any of that shit. Say what you say, do what you do, tell us what you think. Up the Reds.